When we first took Johnny to residential care, we were in survival mode. Those early parent meetings felt like drinking from a fire hose. There was so much information about adoption trauma to process, it was overwhelming. Our focus had to be on getting Johnny the help he needed, which meant letting some things slide. We just didn't have the mental space for it all at once. One principle I've shared on this podcast that's helped me understand Scripture is sitting with the text and letting it really sink in. I want to apply that same principle to some of the more information-packed episodes and break them down into shorter, focused segments. Each one will highlight a single concept with ideas to reflect on and apply on your parenting journey. I'll let you know which episode it came from so you can listen to it in its context. My hope is to make all the wisdom in this content easier to take in and use. Anchors of hope and healing are on the way. Adoptive parents can't walk the healing journey for their children, but there are things you can do to support them. In today's segment, Don't Be Afraid to Go to Therapy, taken from episode 183, Jane Baker talks about why it's important for adoptive parents to work on their own stuff so they can model healing for their children. She also shares some valuable resources for adoptive parents. I want to encourage you to grab a pen and paper and listen for the ideas that speak to you. What would you counsel adoptive parents to do? Because knowing they can't do it for them, how can they, I don't know if facilitate's the right word, or support them? How can they support their adoptive children to navigate these challenges?
I think the first thing I would say is don't be afraid to go to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Look for a therapist that understands adoption and understands adoption issues. Look for somebody, and we are sort of a dying breed, but look for somebody that does family systems work, because they're going to help you get into maybe some of your own family of origin issues. And let's face it, none of us, no matter how great and wonderful our families were, none of us got out of childhood unscathed on some level, because there's no perfect people, which means there's no perfect parent. And we've all made deals with ourselves at some point or another that I'm going to be a better parent than my mom, or I'm going to be a better parent than my dad. And sometimes those things, and if you've had your own abuse history or your own toxic family, you've really made those deals with yourself. That might be your own unresolved grief that is overlaying and becoming enmeshed with this child. So you can't step back enough to see that the problem isn't about you. The problem is what's going on with this kid. So inside of them, and all
Mm-hmm.
that rejecting that you're feeling, it may or may not be because they're rejecting, and it's likely not because they're rejecting you as the parent. They just don't know what to do with themselves. They're just sort of rejecting everything. So don't be afraid to go to therapy. That would be the first thing. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. Often what happens is we take the kid to therapy, and the kid goes, one more time that I'm just the problem. um, Go first.
Yeah.
Go for yourself. It's and work this out in an environment where it's confidential. It's not going to get spread around, because often what we do is we go talk to our friends, we talk to our family members who have a lot of advice, uh, and a lot of it is not usable. Or they're picking sides, or you have family members that go, well, if you just be easier on them, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that's not it. And so lots of things can happen when we sort of reach out to our friends and all that stuff, up to and including losing friends in the process.
Right.
So don't be afraid to go to therapy. That'd be the first one. There's also a good book that I recommend to all my well, I always put my families on Parenting with Love and Logic. You can go to their website and tool around. There's a lot of resources there for parents, divided up by age group. So that would be loveandlogic.com. The old books that they've redone a lot of material, but the old material is still out there, and that's Parenting with Love and Logic, Parenting Teens with Love and Logic, that can help you move more to that sort of consultant position. And now you can think more in terms of consequences being natural and logical, and less about punishment.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be afraid to go to therapy. Don't be afraid to reach out and get new resources. And the other book that I often recommend is Boundaries: How to Say Yes and When to Say No. That's by Henry Cloud and John Townsend. And later they went back and revamped the book and broke it out by sections. But most of my people, and especially my adoptive parents that I work with who've had their own sort of trauma history, they have found that to be incredibly useful. So don't be afraid to go to therapy to figure out what's going on with you and your family. Don't be afraid to go to individual therapy if you need it for yourself, because that's all ways that you take care of yourself, and you can also keep some of what's going on with this child in a confidential way. Because a lot of times, even if we talk to family members or friends, they go talk to other people, and now our child's got a label.
Right.
And you didn't mean for that to happen when it started out, but that's how it can play out.
Jane beautifully emphasized that while we can't walk the healing journey for our adopted children, we can support them best by first working on our own growth, boundaries, and understanding. Let's dive into a few takeaways and questions that can help us better support our adopted children and ourselves. Number 1, don't be afraid to go to therapy. Therapy isn't just for your child. It can be incredibly helpful for parents, especially if you find a therapist who understands adoption and family issues. Addressing your own family history and unresolved issues can help you better support your child. Ask yourself, what personal feelings or family experiences might be influencing the way I respond to my child's challenges? And how can seeking my own therapeutic support help both of us? Number 2, parents should seek help for themselves first. Rather than only taking your child to therapy, which may make them feel like they're the problem, consider going to therapy yourself first. This models self-care and ensures you're dealing with your own emotions confidentially and constructively. Ask yourself, how might my own participation in therapy influence my perspective on my child's struggles, and what example does it set for their emotional wellness? And finally, number 3, be cautious when seeking advice from friends and family. Sharing too much with friends and family can sometimes make things more complicated or lead to unwanted labeling of your child. Outside advice may not always be helpful, and privacy is important. Ask yourself, who are my go-to people for advice, and how might their input affect my child's privacy or our family's dynamic? What boundaries can I set to protect my child? Final thought. Therapy offers a confidential, unbiased space to process challenges, an essential resource for every adoptive family. I would encourage you to sit with this episode, make your own notes, and look for a therapist that understands adoption and adoption issues. You deserve support too, not just your child. Please see the show notes for the resources Jane mentioned. It's my hope that with these shorter segments, you will be able to process and apply the principles that will help you navigate your parenting journey. That's all for this episode. Until next time, this is Tim, encouraging you to do what you can now. I hope today's episode encouraged you to face the storms in your parenting journey with courage and confidence. If so, would you please share this episode with another adoptive parent? It would also bless me and the mission of this podcast if you would take a couple of minutes and leave a review for the show on Apple Podcast. Until next time, this is Tim, encouraging you to do what you can now.